Welcome back, guys. Angel of the Night. We are here again for another tutorial video where I show you how to take your Nintendo 3DS and stream its hardware and game to your PC so you can Wi-Fi battle and trade with Generation 6 and Generation 7. In order to have this tutorial work out there for you, first thing you have to know is you do have to have custom firmware on your 3DS system. So if you don't have that, make sure you go to the description, click the link for the 3DS custom firmware guide, and follow the guide to install custom firmware. If you already have custom firmware, but you haven't used your 3DS in a while, I'm going to show you how to update your Luma custom firmware and get the necessary files onto your 3DS in order to do this tutorial. So as you guys know, the 3DS family had its servers shut down. They are now offline. You cannot pair up and trade Pokemon or battle Pokemon in any of the 3DS titles. So today we are going to be going through a tutorial that shows how to set up Arctic base server and the Citra emulator. Okay, Citra is a 3DS emulator that allows you to play ROMs, homebrew apps, and now in this case, stream your console to your PC. Back in the day when Wi-Fi battling was huge, everybody was out to go get a Katsu Kitty or a Loopy capture card. If you guys don't know what those are, they're very expensive mods that put a little USB micro port on the back of your console so you can hook it up to your PC and export your game's video and audio to the PC. Now we can actually do that wireless using this method, so capture cards are no longer effective for your recording of content because you can actually stream the entire contents of your console to the PC. So in order for this tutorial today, I've got two Katsu Kitty mods. Of course, Katsu Kitty is no longer around because of China's bylaws and whatnot, but these are modded to output audio and video to the PC. I will only be showing this for the process of how to set up the Arctic base server. Okay, we're going to be doing that. The other thing we're going to be using here today, we're going to be using Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. These are physical game cards. I am not using ROMs, okay? So just as a heads up. The other thing as well, I'm going to have to take my micro SD card out of my 3DS console and put it into the PC. So I've got a little USB dongle here. So without further ado, and many attempts at trying to record my intro, we're going to continue on with this tutorial. So first things first, we're going to open up our browser here. We're going to go to Pablo MK7's GitHub. Okay, so once you're onto their GitHub here, there's a link for Arctic base server. The link will be in the description below. And what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go to the releases and download the CIA file. Now at the time of this here, this is the second release of it. This was released yesterday and has been updated pretty much daily here. So we are going to use the CIA file. If you guys are using custom firmware, Luma, which you are supposed to for this tutorial, you will be installing the CIA later. Next thing we're going to do here on Pablo's GitHub, we are going to go to his Citra build. So click onto the Citra, go to his releases, and his release was yesterday. Now, this is said to work with Android. There's one for Linux, Mac OS, and of course, there's the Windows installation. So go ahead and get your zip folder here. We're going to download Citra. So we have our two things here, but we are not done yet. Okay, we need to have the most up-to-date version of Luma. So back onto the Arctic base server page, there should be a link here if we scroll down a little bit to find Luma, and you need to have 13.1.1. So click the link. It'll take you right to the GitHub for Luma 3DS and download the zip folder from that as well. Those are the only files you need to download for this, so make sure you have those three things. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to pop off the back of this 3DS and pop the SD card into the computer. Okay, so now that we have our 3DS console already put into here, we're actually going to copy the contents over to the SD card. Now, first thing you're going to want to do is open up your Luma folder, your Luma zip file, copy all of the contents, and put it to the root of the SD card. replace any files that are existing, and you have now just updated your custom firmware. Next thing, take your Arctic base server CIA file and put it onto the root of your SD card. In this tutorial, I actually have a folder called CIAs. I'm going to put it there because I like organization. Okay. Close your SD card and disconnect it from your computer. Okay, so I've actually put the back on. The SD card is inside. Now I am going to let you know that this is a Katsu Kitty capture card, so I can actually show you the steps that are on the screen here next. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this in and load up the Katsu Kitty software. You should be able to see what's on the screen. So if you are familiar with custom firmware, you should already have this currently here. This is the boot configuration for your Luma. Don't be scared. It's nothing to be too concerned about. Just make sure you have this one option here checked. Okay, as you see, there's an X here. This is the show NAND or user string in the system settings. Okay, all you're going to do, just hit start, save and exit. And then, of course, this is going to boot you into your 3DS operating system. So my console's actually just rebooting here at the time being. I know it's yellow, so my green screen's kind of affecting it here. It is not translucent, I promise. As you can see, my hands are not going through it. Okay, so I've got my 3DS console already here and all ready to go. What you're going to do is you're going to go into your FBI application. Okay, and I'm going to go to my SD card. I'm going to go to my CIAs folder, and I'm going to find arcticbase.cia. Go ahead and install the CIA. I would recommend to not delete it off your SD card, just in case you have to reinstall it later on. It's a very small file. It's not going to take up any space. Okay, it's finished installing, and you can go back to your home screen. Okay. So as you can see, we now have Arctic Base. So this is important. This is the one app that you're going to require. We're actually going to set this aside here for now. I'm going to close the screen onto this and set it aside. Next, what we're going to do, we're going to set up and configure your Citra. Okay, so we're going to close out of my Katsu Kitty software. We're going to find my Citra folder or my Citra file, open it up, and we're going to drag this to the desktop. Okay, this is extracting the zip folder, and now you can actually close out of your browser. Okay, in your Citra folder that you've just extracted, you've placed it onto your desktop or wherever you want it to be. Just make sure you go inside the folder and launch the Citra-Qt. Okay, this is going to launch the application. There's a few little configurations here that I'm going to suggest that we specify. So in your application of Citra, go to Emulation and Configure. Okay, go to System, and where it says Username, I'm just going to specify my name. I like to customize everything, but this is really not required. Okay, if you go to Graphics, you can go through here and specify how you want the graphics to show up. I'm going to highly recommend to leave them as the defaults for the time being, and we'll be able to configure those further later on. Okay, if you go to Controls, you have the method of either using a keyboard or if you have a game controller. I highly recommend the Xbox controller. I enjoy them. Easy to hold. If you have a Switch Pro controller or you have any other controllers, plug them into USB, sync them to Bluetooth, and then go to the drop down and specify which controller you're using, set them up how you wish, and we'll continue on. Okay. Now that you've gone through and you've configured your controls and you've personalized the application with your name, the next thing is multiplayer. We're going to need to set up multiplayer because if you go in and select Browse Public Game Lobby, you're going to notice that there are no actual game rooms to join. Now, before Citra was taken down, Citra had numerous game rooms there that you could connect to and use for multiplayer. So we're going to actually add that back to the Citra application so that way we can find the game rooms. So step one is you're going to want to close your Citra browser, or Citra application rather. In your Windows Explorer, go into this PC. You're going to go to your C drive. You're going to go to Users, go to your User folder, and then we're going to go into AppData. Now, once you're into your AppData folder, you're going to go to Roaming. You're going to go to Citra, and you're going to go into the Config folder. You're going to need to go to where it says Qt-config. You're going to right-click and edit. This should open up a text document. Okay. In the text document, you are going to hit Control F, and we are going to look for web_API. Find next, and there are two strings here that we have to edit. As you can see, these two strings are pointing to a web URL, which is for Citra directly. We're actually going to update this with the following information. I will have this in the description below, but in case you need to know, I will increase the font here so you can see it. Okay, these are the two strings here that you're going to need to edit. So it's the web_API _URL /default equals false. So that's telling the emulator that it's not going to use the default, and it's going to use the web_API _URL equals http://88.198.47.46 5000. That's telling you the port number is 5000. So that's good. If you have any Citra usernames or tokens, don't worry about that. You're going to go in File and Save, and you're going to close out. So you can close your File Explorer and go back to where you actually saved the Citra files. Okay, so in the Citra folder, what we can do is open up the Citra Qt. This is going to load up the Citra folder. And if you go to Multiplayer and browse Public Game Library, you can see we've got all the game rooms back. Okay. If you wish to create a room, I'm going to highly recommend that you have a decent internet connection, because if you don't have a decent download, upload, and a ping with your partner, you're going to have a difficult time. So pretty much any game room that's open here you can connect to and pair with a partner. So I'll show you that here in a little bit. But we're going to close out of this here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to connect your 3DS to Citra. Okay, so now that we've got our Katsu Kitty console open here on the right, on the left, we have our Citra. So what you're going to want to do is on your 3DS, you're going to want to open up the application for Arctic Base. Okay, so once you have Arctic Base open, go ahead and click the A button to launch the application. And as you can see, it says that it's done. Select your game title. So that'll take you back to your home menu so you can select your game. In this case here, we're using the digital copy of Alpha Sapphire. And when it comes up, it says that it's got the IP address for your console and the port number. So over to your Citra, go into File, Connect to Arctic Base, and you're going to want to type in the IP address and the port number that it gives you. So in this case, mine was 192.168.0.13:5543, which is your port number. If you click OK, you're going to notice that the Citra application is going to look almost like it hung up for a little bit or not respond as in my situation. But essentially what it's doing is it's taking all the information from your 3DS console, sending it across your network, and putting it into the emulator. So that's going to go through, it's going to take the intros to the games, scenes, little video clips that the actual console has, and it's going to broadcast it to the actual emulator. The next thing, as you can see, is it's going to read the game save, and it's going to read your external data. Now, the external data is basically any kind of patches that you have for the game. So if you have like a randomizer or a Nuzlocke or anything along those lines, it takes that information and it sends it over to the console. Now, as you can see here, the game right now is running. It shows me the speed that it is working at with the Arctic base. It shows me the speed of the emulator, as well as the frames per second. Now, this game is actually running at 30 frames per second, which I would not expect to see 60 at all, guys. That's just unrealistic. But as you can see here, it's actually broadcasting over to your Citra emulator. From there, it's going to pause every now and then when it loads things like video files. As you can see over on the Katsukity console, the traffic went right to 0. That's because it was loading the next part of the video clip to send to the actual emulator. So we can actually go ahead and just click A here on our keyboard. I'm using the keyboard for controls here today, just because I'll be using a controller for the laptop that's off to the side. So you can see here it's loading up the game. Some of the menu systems can be a little bit slow. That's okay. Over time, and depending on what you have going on your network at that time, also could be conflicting. Like, let's say someone's streaming Netflix in 4K, or let's say you got a Plex server running like I do, or maybe someone's playing Xbox Live. I mean, that stuff can all conflict with your network's upload speed, but this is all internal. So, I mean, really and truly, there really shouldn't be too much of a lag or too much of a problem, but just keep that in mind. Okay. So we're into the Citra emulator here now. Now, as you can see, some of the graphics are a little chunky, but that's how you would see it over on the actual 3DS. So you can actually go into your emulation and go to Configure and go to Graphics, and you can change those how you wish if you want to give them a different try on things. I'm going to bump it up to about 5 times native. My screen's a little bit bigger here, but as you can see, as you go higher in the resolution, the actual quality of it changes. So right now we're running at about 5 times, and my system's a little bit older. It's a system that was built in 2015, so my computer is a little bit on the outdated end. But we're going to change just a little bit here. There we go. Now, if you take a look or you zoom in, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here, maybe. View, screen layout, side by side. Now, this, as you can see, it's not so jaggedy around the characters, okay? Again, you got to remember, this is coming from a 3DS, okay? The resolutions are not that high. But the emulator will clean it up, and I mean, there's like remove black lines codes and all that stuff you can use. But go to the PSS. And as you can see here, you're going to be able to see whoever the passerbys are. So if you're like me and you want to do some battles and trades, make sure you're on the PSS system. And then we're going to go to Multiplayer, Browse Public Game Lobby. Now, this is going to allow you to connect to a Citra room. So the purpose of this, I'm just going to connect to a random one here that I tested on earlier. Okay, make sure you set a username. So I'm going to set my name, Corey. And we're going to connect up to the room. Now, as you can see, my buddy Retro is still here. And of course, you can see that my emulator shows that I'm playing Pokemon Alpha Sapphire, which is what we're currently doing. So I'm going to go ahead and load up my Citra on my laptop. I'll be back momentarily, and I'll show you that we can connect. Okay, so just to show you guys here, I'm on my other Nintendo 3DS console, and I'm loading up Arctic Base. So I've got 2 of them going right now, I'm connecting up onto my laptop, and I will be using an Xbox Series X controller. And as you can see, my other system is shown up here. So as of right now, both my consoles are online with Citra, and we're currently streaming. Okay, we're streaming to 2 computers. Both of them right now, for the purpose of this tutorial, are on different networks. Perfect. We're going to go over to the PSS system, and as you can see on my 3DS, and you can see here, Elena has just popped up. Now that is my actual game that I used to use when I streamed. So if you guys don't know this game, I apologize. You're probably not watching me in 2015. But anyways, let's go to battle. We're going to do a 2-player match, single battle, normal rules. We're going to hit yes. On the other console, it says that Corey is initiating a battle. We're going to hit yes. And we are going to click yes to save the game. Okay, now keep in mind, we're on 2 different networks. Okay, I'm tethered to my cellular data on my laptop and my 3DS console, which is red. My yellow one is synchronized to my desktop computer that's on my home network. Okay, both 3DS consoles are streaming the physical hardware and the game. It's synchronized to Citra, and we are connected to a Citra game room, as you guys can see here. So we're going to go ahead here. We're going to click Battle Start. Battle Start. We're just going to choose the in-game team. And we are going to select our Pokemon that we wish to enter. Okay, so once you get your team all set up and ready to battle, essentially you're going to get your battle loaded up here. Now, you might run into a couple glitches as you play, just because it has to load the information over your network. So just keep in mind, if you have any massive amounts of traffic going across your network, just kind of maybe cut that out for when you do the battle, just because it might actually give you like loading time issues, or it might desync and whatnot. So just keep that in mind. But as you can see here, it's actually synchronizing everything over from the 3DS, and we're able to choose our moves. So let's go to fight, and we are gonna go for the Mega Evolution here. I think I'm gonna go for High Jump Kick. And on my other console, I'm just gonna go for the Crab Hammer here. Now you gotta remember, with me, I'm running at about 5K resolution, or 5 times resolution. So it's a little bit choppy for me. You're gonna have to play around with your settings a little bit. Maybe set your settings to like 1 times, or maybe just automatic. But figure out what's best for your computer. I know my laptop runs flawlessly with 5 times res, but my desktop's a little bit older, so it's a little bit more choppy that way. But as you can see, everything here is working perfectly fine. We're able to go in and do a battle. And we'll just give it a second here. Again, as you can see, there was a little bit of a load time issue there. A little bit around the Kingler, but that's to be expected when you think about what we're doing. Let's go to Meteor Mash. And we are going to go for the Xer. Okay. Now, if you guys are wanting to do trades, you could definitely do so. Of course, you can't connect online. You can't do anything to do with GTS or anything like that. But if you find someone that you know in a Discord channel or anything like that, you might be able to ask them, hey, do you have this Pokemon? Can we trade? And that's kind of where my next topic is going to go to. My Discord server, I've actually gone through and found methods to battle Generation 1 to 3, 4 to 5, 6 to 7, And then, of course, 8 to 9 are still in production. So we actually have the capability of finding battles in across all generations over at Snowpine Temple. The link for my Discord is going to be down below. So if you guys want to find battles and trades and bring back all the generations, be sure to pop on by. I'll battle you, I'll trade you, whatever you're looking for, we'll do it, okay? And let's try to grow this community back. Let's get Pokemon generations back into the competitive scene. And let's, battle generations 6 and 7 once again. Hopefully this tutorial has been informative there for you. If you need any help at all, be sure to reach out. You can do it in the comment section. You can pop by the Discord. Just let me know, guys. All right, take care. Have a good one. And I'll see you guys in the battlefield. Peace out. Kingler, go for the hammer arm. Oh, that's my Metagross. No, not my Kingler. Kingler, go for the crab hammer. Ooh, not my Kirk. Kirk the Kingler. You're better than this.